Everyone stand, please. Dear Lord, guide our words and actions in this meeting. May our discussions be productive, our decisions wise, and our interactions filled with respect and understanding. Bless us with the unity and clarity as we work towards our common goals. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Okay, so I had a longer welcome, but I think we're going to get to it. We don't know how long we will have power. Okay, here we go. But I do want real quick talk about some, because we are streaming and it makes it very difficult for people to hear everything while streaming. So some debate etiquette that we need to follow, which is no shouting. We had some last night. None. I will come tap you on the shoulder and ask you to leave. So let's not do that tonight. Also, please, you must wait to clap until both candidates or three candidates have finished their closing statements and our moderator has invited you to then, clap for everyone, okay? Remember, this is a great audience that we have here, but the majority of the people that watch it are watching it online, and we need for them to be able to do it. I had a bunch of thank yous. We're going to do that hopefully maybe at the end, or I'll do it online. And, okay, last night was great. Tonight should not disappoint. I'm going to hand it over to, we have House District 39, House District 48, House District 60, and our county commissioners. I'm going to hand it over to our incredible host, our incredible moderator, Johnny K. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. And I mentioned last night, and I mentioned a number of times today, I'll mention it again with all sincerity. Bruce Pivick, you have the toughest job in the House tonight. Thank you for everything that you do. Yes, please. Thank you. And also to my right, integral parts of this evening, Tammy Valdez and also Roy Lloyd. They're going to be our timekeepers, and we'll ask you for a visual aid here momentarily. And please bear with me. I'll try to go through these as quickly as I can. Opening statements. Each candidate will have up to, but not to exceed, 2 minutes of opening statements. And as far as the debate questions are concerned, we will ask the candidates questions as time allows. I do obviously have a number prepared. Each candidate will be asked the same questions. Candidates will alternate who answers the question first. Candidates will have up to, but not to exceed, 90 seconds to answer each question presented by myself. The candidate who answered the question first will receive up to 30 seconds for rebuttal after the second candidate answers a question. A caveat for the positions where we have three candidates. If by chance I get back to that first person, if there is no rebuttal, that's fine. We'll just drive on. But if there is, certainly signal me, okay? All right, fair enough. And we'll continue. To aid candidates in managing the response times, once again to my right, the committee will be implementing time paddles to show answer a follow-up question, and that'll be in the same order as the original question with no additional rebuttals. And finally, with closing statements, approximately 5 minutes left of the scheduled time, we will ask the candidates to make their closing statements. Each candidate will receive up to, but not to exceed, 2 minutes for closing statements, and we'll do that in the same order that we do the opening statements. Any questions? Well, let's begin. And as we are beginning with the opening statements, Laura Mckee, I'd love to hear from you first.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know you probably had other things you needed to do, and I thank the GOP for putting this on, and Johnny K. and our time moderators and the other candidates as well. I'm Laura Mckee, a true conservative Republican running for House District 39. My life was turned upside down last year in October when I got a call that my two great nieces and two great nephews were being removed from their home. After careful consideration, my husband and I decided to foster them. I'm happy to say that they are in the process of being reunited with their parents. I have been in finance for 23 years, and I know how to balance a budget and have a spending plan. When I originated mortgages, I was able to help other people do the same. I have a degree in accounting and computer science, and I've done a lot of different jobs in office management. I've been married to my wonderful husband for 21 years, and we have 3 children and 7 grandchildren between us, and we love spending time together. My faith and my family are the cornerstone of my life. Every time that I've gotten a job, that has prepared me and taught me for my next job, including fostering the kids. After speaking at city council meetings, school board meetings, and town halls, I felt like it was falling on deaf ears. I wanted to change the direction that our state's going in. I want to have true property tax reform, cut wasteful spending, and so people can meet their basic needs. We need to hold our representatives accountable for how they vote, not just what they say. Our representatives must be honest, have integrity, and represent we, the people. They need to protect our freedom and our rights and to vote along their party platforms, whether it's Republican or Democratic. As your representative, I will fearlessly fight to defend our rights and freedoms of the U.S. citizens based on the Wyoming Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. And I'm endorsed by Right to Life and the Guns of America.
Thank you, Laura. And with an opening statement next, I'd like to hear from Marshall Burt.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Sweetwater County GOP for hosting the debates, Johnny K for moderating, my fellow candidates for accepting, and most of all, the voters that are tuning in. I am a husband, stepfather, Marine, and former elected representative of House District 39. During my time in the House, I served on the corporation's elections as well as the Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs committees. Among the candidates running for House District 39, I have the highest proven conservative voting record. I have sponsored and co-sponsored legislation that has reduced government's overreach on our Second Amendment rights, as well as fought for patients' rights, so Wyoming residents could choose the best care they felt would work best for them. I have a proven voting record that shows I am able to work not only with every political party in the room, but also between the split fractions of the current political party that we see in our state politics. On August 20th, I'd be honored to receive your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. And with 2 minutes for an opening statement, Cody Wylie.
Can you hear me? Thanks. Cody Wylie. I represent House District 39 for Rock Springs and Green River. I serve on the Corporation Committee, Highway Military Affairs Committee. I'm the only freshman to be appointed to the Energy Council, and I'd like to thank everybody here tonight, my opponents, the timekeepers, the GOP, Mr. Johnny K, Bruce Pivick. It's a great thing that you guys do. I also need to thank my wife and my little boy William. He would be here tonight, but we didn't bring him because the rafters are too high. I would also like to thank everybody that's helped me in my campaign to this point and in the previous campaigns that I've had. I'm a third-generation businessman from Sweetwater County. I graduated Rock Springs High School. I went on to Western. From there, I finished up a degree at University of Wyoming. I love being a Wyomingite, and I love fighting for our future. I went to Cheyenne to work for Sweetwater County, my communities, and my state. I've been an effective legislator, passing or co-sponsoring several pieces of legislation, bringing roughly $200 million of local impact back to Sweetwater County with no new or additional taxation. I help save the private sector $70 million annually, plus or minus, lowering workers' compensation premiums without lessening the service that you get from that department. I told folks in Sweetwater County that I would make sure that we were recognized more in Cheyenne. I believe I delivered on that promise, and I humbly ask for your vote coming up on August 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Let's dive right in. Marshall Burt, I'm coming your way, giving you the first question. And everyone, a question regarding the topic environmental policy. Marshall, how do you intend to balance Wyoming's economic interests with the need for environmental conservation? Further, what policies would you advocate to protect the state's natural resources while supporting responsible development?
Johnny, when it comes to Wyoming's rights with our environmental impact, the biggest impact which I see locally is coal. Our natural gas extraction resources have been affected by the federal government, and we can continue to say what we want to do within the state. really what we're going to end up doing is having to fight the federal government at every turn when they come out with a new policy. So we should back the executive branch when they come out with a bad policy at the federal level, to give the executive branch the power to sue the federal level in order to protect Wyoming's rights. When it comes to policy, when I was my first year, I didn't really care to spend $7 million of the taxpayer money to cloud seed. But when we look at water rights and how the federal government has restricted Wyoming at that level, it was a toss-up between spending some money to get water back into our reservoirs, or have the federal overreach of government come in and tell Wyoming residents how they were going to balance their water. So I didn't want the federal government coming in and telling me, how I was going to manage my water, or tell anybody else in the state of Wyoming to manage water. So it's those balances that we have to kind of make, that are tough decisions on being fiscally responsible in the long run, but yet still be able to have the best interests of the Wyoming residents at heart.
Thank you, Marshall. And same question, I give it to you again. How do you intend to balance Wyoming's economic interests with the need for environmental conservation? Further, what policies would you advocate to protect the state's natural resources while supporting responsible development? Cody.
I appreciate that question. This is kind of like a broken record. I've been dealing with federal overreach since I was elected 2 years ago. I've served on the Rock Springs RMP task force, and that has everything to do with how we balance our natural resources and our wide open spaces, and what the federal government wants to do and tell us how to live. I don't agree with that. A bureaucrat in Washington has no idea what it's like, out in the middle of the red desert here in Wyoming. And we push back against that. I think those working groups we had were productive, and we've set the state up to defend itself quite well for litigation moving on in the future. Another thing I would like to talk about is, I was also put on the electrical generation subcommittee, and that has to do with coal, keeping our coal miners working, and making sure that other states don't tell us how or what type of power we can produce. Baseload coal is one of the only stable technologies we have to keep the lights on. And I intend to keep pushing for that, and it's much like the sage grouse management plan. Wyoming is on the cutting edge. The federal government come to us for advice into how to administer that, and I think we just keep pushing back, and we continue to do the good work that we know how to do. Thanks, Johnny.
Very good. And Laura, before I pose that same question to yourself, if I could have you move your microphone a little closer to your mouth, please. That way we can hear you. Now, generally, I'll read each question twice, but in your case, Laura, if you'd like me to read it again, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. All right, so I concur with both of my opponents and what they've said. There's a lot of states that have done lawsuits against the federal government because of their overreach, because of the coal. It is supporting a lot of our electrical needs, and we have to have it. So we cannot, we continue to decline. We just had more layoffs at Bridger Coal. There's 4 units out there, and 3 of them are going to be natural gas. So it is a crucial and severe issue that we have to work with. Our governor has not, joined the lawsuit. So I feel like he needs to do that and fight against that. And also, there's more. We support an out-of-state coal-fired power plant, but we don't have one of our own. And so I just think that, with AI coming and with the mega centers that we're going to have, meta centers, we're going to need 10 times the electricity that we have now. So if we think we have problems now, it's only going to get worse. And the renewables are very expensive. They do not do what they say they're going to do. And they kill our vegetation, our animals, our birds. I mean, there's a lot of issues with that. So we really do need to get back. We have had these natural resources. It has been the backbone of our state since the beginning. So we really do need to support those and the mines.
Very good. Thank you. Marshall, you look like you had something to say. I might be wrong. Okay, I wanted to give you that opportunity for rebuttal. Cody?
Johnny? Absolutely. I just want to add on to that a little bit. So right now the governor has millions in reserve for litigation, and we're waiting for a record of decision. That should come any day now. We'll see what the Biden administration chooses to do, but we're fully ready to litigate. Another thing I want to talk about, I actually brought a third reading amendment to allow the county to tap into $75 million for litigation, and unfortunately that was vetoed.
Very good, and thank you all. Cody, I'm going to keep it right there if we could, and let's move on to the next topic concerning parental rights. Cody, again, coming your way. How do you plan to balance parental rights with the policies and curriculum decisions made by schools? Specifically, what steps would you take to ensure that parents have meaningful input in their children's education, particularly on sensitive topics such as curriculum content and school policies?
Absolutely, thank you. I believe that the first step to doing that is to make sure that we have a strong structure in our local boards. Our school board is pivotal to that, and I am not going to undermine their authority with legislation that will take that away, because once we do that, it will never come back. It's going to be a government-appointed board. It is not representing the people. Another thing, when we have problems come up, we've had several come up since I've been in office, we address that. We have two pieces of legislation, one from the Senate, one from our local representative, Clark Stith, and we've addressed some of the problems that we've had with parental rights. I believe that we need to give everything that we can to the kids while they're in school, at the same time letting those families in that core family unit, choose to raise their kids how they want. And I do not want to bring government into the family unit. I think that would be a mistake. And if we legislate that and put that government into that family unit, we will never get it out.
Thank you. And Laura, if I could give you the question again. It's a mouthful even for me. How do you plan to balance parental rights with the policies and curriculum decisions made by schools? Specifically, what steps would you take to ensure that parents have meaningful input into their children's education, particularly on sensitive topics such as curriculum content and school policies?
Thank you, Johnny. I definitely support parental rights. This is something near and dear to my heart. I have spent a lot of time at our school board meetings. I have spoken against our blue label books. I was there when they struck out our entire dress code, and now the only thing left is modest. I have talked with them about the parental rights bill, one of them that was passed that was very vague, and I was told that the reason that our policies or bills are written, or laws are written vague, is so to prevent lawsuits, and that is not okay with me. We need to have the laws be specific to where people can sue if something happens. In one of them there's no teeth. So if something happens, there's no ramifications for that. And my opponent had voted in 2023 that they could teach in K through 3 gender identity. And I am very much against all of that. I believe I have 5 kids at times with my granddaughter and those kids. And there's nothing more important to me than to teach them. There's so many things we need to teach our kids. We need to teach them the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, the Wyoming Constitution. We need to teach them to love, honor, and respect our country and our flag.
Very good, thank you. Marshall, again, the question concerning parental rights. Your thoughts?
You don't have to read it again, Johnny. Thank you. So parental rights is not a new modern era style of policy that we're seeing being violated by schools. My mother had an issue with a local school growing up, and it's taken me about 40 years to say thank you, Mom, for actually standing up to the school where I grew up. And that happened to deal with sex education, which is a very sensitive topic as well. And she didn't believe that the school was in the place to teach us kids that. A lot of parents, saw it differently. They allowed the school to teach that, but it was her belief that that was a core family value that she wanted to teach. Current federal law allows parents to have rights on making decisions for the school, for the kids, on how they're educated, what's being educated, understanding how budgets are processed, how money is spent. But the problem is when we allow the schools to become a small, limited government within itself, and they don't respond to the individual parent or parents, then the accountability portion is gone. So we need to get back and allow parents to have the ability to sue if they find that there's an egregious effect within the school board itself. I don't believe in overpowering local control, but if the school boards are overstepping the parental rights and violating those, then I believe there should be some form of legislation that would give the parents.
Thank you, Marshall. Cody, I imagine you might have a rebuttal.
Yeah, thanks, John. There's been a lot of misinformation lately, and shifting and changing of how you voted or what vote was taken. My opponent here will have to give me a bill number because I don't ever remember taking a vote on that. Other than, like I said, I will not undermine our local boards. That's most important to me. And I think if you want to take up those issues, you should better spend your time maybe on a school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. And Laura, 30 seconds if you so choose.
I do have all the bills with me, so I'll be happy after to give you the bill number that you voted on there. But our school board does not have a voice. So for me to be in the school board would not be advantageous. This is the place where I can get good conservative bills done with other good conservative legislatures.
Thank you, Laura. And as we move along to our next series of questions, I'd like to begin with you, ma'am, and the topic being the Republican Party platform. Laura, as a candidate aligned with the Wyoming Republican Party, how do you plan to uphold and promote the key principles as outlined in the party's platform? Specifically, how do you intend to address issues such as economic development, natural resource management, and individual liberties as outlined in the platform, while also representing our district in the state legislature?
Johnny, I have read through the Republican Party platforms. I totally adhere to them. As far as the liberty goes, I feel like we've had a lot of liberty issues with during COVID, having mandates put on us, having organizations from our federal government telling us things we needed to do, even overstepping as far as possibly doing things with our kids in schools. As far as the other part of it, I believe in the life at conception, and I don't know on the economic. We talked a lot about different economic things. We definitely, again, have to protect all of our natural resources, our coal, our gas, our oil, and we have to get back to utilizing those. And I think that's all that I can think of.
Very good. Thank you, Laura. And Marshall, coming your way next, and again, please allow me to get the question once again. As a candidate aligned with the Wyoming Republican Party, how do you plan to uphold and promote the key principles outlined in the party's platform? Specifically, how do you intend to address issues such as economic development, natural resource management, and individual liberties as outlined in the platform while still representing our district in the state legislature?
Thank you, Johnny. When I was in office, I sponsored a number of pieces of legislation. One was a full adult use of cannabis. One was also medical cannabis use, as well as increasing lottery intakes and a number of the other bills that would have brought in revenue to the state at no cost to the state. That does go right along with individual liberty. If you want to choose to partake in medical cannabis, if that's between you and your doctor, then that's a decision that an individual should be able to make, not the government should be able to make. Of course, that brings in the revenue side of it. There's always an argument of growing government whenever you grow an industry, but within the current government that we currently have, there are avenues out there with different organizations that would allow distribution and implementation at a very low cost, offset by the money that's coming in. One of the big things I tried pushing was to increase cowboy skill games within truck stops along the state, which I thought was a pretty good idea considering how many days of the year our truck stops or our roads are shut down. When it comes to personal liberty, it takes a strong argument and a strong position to be able to put your freedom up when you stand by what your word is. When I was in, I voted against any measure to force mandates, and I was willing to lose my job in order to promote.
Thank you, Marshall. And finally, let me turn this over to Cody. And again, Cody, I'd be happy to repeat the question if you so choose.
Okay, thanks, John.
So,
appreciate the question. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And how do we get to that? We create good jobs. We have good schools. We have opportunities within our community. And then everybody has a good life. That's how we get to that. I've fought for that the entire time I've been in Cheyenne. We've tried to roll back red tape and regulation. We've tried to push back against the government to give some economic opportunities. We've never looked for rare earths out at our coal patch here. That's one thing that we can do, and I've been working on that. You know, we need to go take some core samples and see what we have. That's the next push, and to be able to broaden our economic future. Another thing is computer chips or, you know, data centers. We're having problems with electricity generation right now, and a big argument is, well, you don't have enough consumers in the state to balance out the costs. Well, a couple of data centers is going to take up a lot of that coal-fired power, and that's how we get there. You know, it's a simple thing. We try to stay out of it as much as we can, and we create opportunity for folks to achieve and pull up their bootstraps. Good lives, good schools, good families. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Cody. And Laura, was there a follow-on that you might have? All right, very good. Marshall, a rebuttal?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to correct Cody's statement there when it comes to regulations. When you look at 170 total votes for votes that increase regulations, Cody voted 130 times for over 76% of those. So to claim that you're going to decrease regulations, your voting record, if you need the bills, I've got a whole list, but you're not in favor of decreasing regulations. So I just wanted to clear the air.
Cody, I'll give you 30 seconds.
I frankly disagree. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, well, let's move right along with a lively debate. That's what we were hoping for tonight. And the next series of questions covering local priorities, I'd like to begin with Marshall Burt. Marshall, what are the most crucial needs of Sweetwater County that you believe should be prioritized in state funding? Also, what specific actions would you take as a legislator to ensure that Sweetwater County receives its fair share of state resources?
Johnny, I've never been a fan of the term their fair share. Either comes with spending or taxation. It's a bad political term to have. It just means that we're just trying to figure out who we can tax more. When it comes to local priorities, one of our biggest concerns here are our roadways. We often hear about we can't afford to maintenance all the roads, side roads, both here in Rock Springs and Green River, because there's not enough funding in the system for it. One of the big ones that hit me personally was a couple weeks ago. I had to take a trip in an ambulance over to the ER. I'm fine, but I do believe that EMS services, even though they are not classified as essential, are by far essential. So when we look at, let's go back to the other statement there with party platform, we talk about liberty. When you do fiscal irresponsibility of the government, it does result in the economic equality of the populace. So I like to figure out how we can shift money that we keep putting in the state savings, usually it's $1.5 billion a year, and shift that money back to the counties to where, where we can actually afford to shift the funding back to some of our EMS services so they do not continue to go unpaid and our residents don't go unserviced.
Thank you, Marshall. Cody, coming your way, let me get the question out once again. What are the most crucial needs of Sweetwater County that you believe should be prioritized in state funding? Further, what specific actions would you take as a legislator to ensure that Sweetwater County receives its fair share of state resources?
Thanks again, John. Yeah, absolutely. Infrastructure and set ourselves up intelligently moving into the future. You know, we're going to be behind, and that's not good. It's better to stay ahead of these things, and that's always our goal, to give these services that we know we need to our people and keep taxation low and continue to move forward as a state and grow. Thanks.
Thank you, Cody. And again, the topic, local priorities. Laura.
Yes, so we need to go back to the basic roles of government, you know, police, EMS, like he said, that's one of the things I was talking about, roads, bridges. We need to limit government growth, and we need to, as a legislature, I would have town hall meetings and get an email list, do updates during legislative sessions, excuse me, attend school board meetings and city council meetings, you know, stay up with the people and be a legislator all year round, not just when I go to Cheyenne, because there are a lot of needs and people will tell you what they need, and how to help them if you just listen to them. So I think that that's really important, and I think that we'll find, as we're talking with the people and attending meetings, you'll know what's going on in our community and what we need to do.
Thank you. And Marshall, a 30-second rebuttal, perhaps.
Thank you, Johnny. Just again, I want to clear the air when we talk about trying to lower taxes. We can't lower taxes when you vote 57% to increase taxes or add taxes, and 44% to decrease or limit taxes. So to sit here and say we need to lower taxes and then turn around and vote in favor of higher taxes is not going to get us to that benchmark. So let's be a little more honest to the people here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. Cody, 30 seconds, perhaps.
I got it all night, John. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you go to Cheyenne, you can vote no on everything, and they'll call you the most conservative person in the state. Well, I tell you what, as long as I'm fighting for the folks at home, you could call me a purple buffalo, and I'll be all right with that. You know, one of the biggest things that I got when my first 2 years in the legislature was, hey, Cody, can you get us a new high school? Well, guess what? We brought home a new high school. $158 million, no new taxes, no tax increase. Rock Springs is going to get that high school.
Thank you, Cody. You may regret the purple buffalo analogy in your political career. All right. You know, Cody, let's keep it right there, and let's turn our attention now to our next topic, mental health. The question, what preventative measures would you advocate for to reduce the incidence of mental health issues across the state?
Thanks, John. Mental health is tricky, right? I know everybody in this room has probably been touched by mental health, probably been touched by suicide in some way. I've lost a lot of friends at an early age, and I think there is no silver bullet for mental health. But, you know, we voted on spending a few million for it, 988 hotline, some other programs for the kids in schools and stuff. And my motto is, you know, if we can save just one life, you know, that money's worth spending. And we put out a poll. We've asked people, do you want to spend money on this? They said absolutely. So that's just another thing. I think that's an essential service is mental health, especially with our young people, and especially with the problems that we're having right now statewide. Nobody knows why it's increasing, but we have to keep trying to find something to deal with it.
Thank you, Cody. And again, the topic, mental health. The question once again for Laura, what preventative measures would you advocate for to reduce the incidence of mental health issues in Wyoming?
Shawnee, the amount that we're paying in mental health is equivalent to $300 a month per person in the state of Wyoming. We have continually thrown money at this issue, and yet the crisis continues to grow exponentially. We must get to the root of the problem. We need to get our borders closed. The drug problem almost cost my great nieces and nephews their parents' lives. We need to get inflation down by cutting spending so that people can afford things, and imagine what that could do for their mental state. People don't know what to do. They're feeling very hopeless. They can't put gas in the car, food on the table, and do what they need to do. And with the heavy taxation and inflation, it is just ruining families. And I also love the idea that Scott Heiner brought up last night of bringing clergy into the schools. He said that reduced the suicide to 0%. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Let's try something different.
Very good. Thank you. And with mental health, Marshall, your thoughts?
Thank you, Johnny. Mental health is a very serious issue. I won't debate anybody on that or disagree with anybody on that one. I live with mental health. I've lost a lot of friends from the military due to mental health. It isn't a light subject, and it's not an easy subject to deal with because there are so many facets that create the avenue that lead to somebody, into suicide. I don't believe that government is the solution. There always has to be a benchmark on how do we succeed. And the state process of dealing with mental health hasn't been the answer. I'd like to see more private industry get involved to try to help that out. But when you get private to combat against state, private will fail every day because they don't have the funds that the state does. I do not think that clergy in the schools are going to solve the mental health crisis. Even though it's a good punchline, I would like to see Scott Heiner's data on exactly where he got the numbers from. While it may sound like a good idea, we can go back to Thomas Jefferson's idea where school, church, and state should be separated. It isn't that I'm against church. It's definitely not against state. But there has to be a separation of it. Otherwise, it gets muddied, and we'll never find the answer to it.
Thank you, Marshall. Cody, 30 seconds.
Thanks, John. Again, I just want to touch, the representative that talked last night voted no on every mental health measure that we brought forward over and over again. So I don't want to hear about that. Another thing is yes, it can take clergy in the church, in our society. It takes everybody, right? But at the same time, we can't leave anybody behind, because you never get to talk to that person again. You never get to give them a hug again. All we're doing is buying time, especially in our youth. We give them a little more time.
Thank you, Cody. And Laura, finally, if you'd like 30 seconds to rebut. All right, very good then. Pressed for time, but let's try to sneak in one more topic, shall we? And Laura, I'd like to begin with you. The topic or the series of questions regarding state budget management. How would you approach the challenge of balancing Wyoming's state budget? Also, what areas would you prioritize for spending cuts or increased funding, and why?
Well, we have the highest state budget that we've ever had in the history of Wyoming, and we definitely need to cut wasteful spending. I'll give you an example. We spent $4 million covering a walkway at the Natrona High School so that the football players could get into their field undercover. We need to limit government growth and have a spending plan with common sense increases. We need to pass true property tax reform, taking property values back to the 2019 and the 2020 level, and then do the 3% cap, or 4% if we have to negotiate to that. We put $2 billion in our savings. We're at almost $30 billion. When will it be enough? The budget needs to be transparent to everyone. I hear the budget is convoluted. That doesn't work for the citizens of Wyoming. We deserve to know, and that again goes back to the basic role of government: fire, police, ambulance, roads, bridges. Not a bunch of pet projects. We can't keep bringing things back to the people of our community that are not necessary. This money is the Wyoming people's money, and we need to treat it that way.
Thank you, Laura. And Marshall, I'm coming your way. Again, the topic, state budget management. And the question, how do you approach the challenge of balancing Wyoming's state budget? Also, what areas would you prioritize for spending cuts or increase funding, and why?
Thank you, Johnny. When I was in office, I tried to push a bill, and I pretty much was told to get bent, about trying to move YDOT, which is a essential government role. It's our highways, it's our law enforcement side on the highway patrol. These guys maintain our roads and they clean our roads and stuff like that. But YDOT is not on the general fund. So most agencies have to submit a bill to the budget office and the governor's office to get their money for their annual and have an audit and all that stuff. But YDOT isn't included in that. So whenever you see your driver's license fees go up every other year, your registration fees and your vehicles going up, and I'm sure a few of you are probably a little more upset than I am. I own a 21-year-old pickup, and I'm still paying almost $300 a year for registration. I think it's outrageous. So the idea I had was to move YDOT into the general fund, push an audit system so we knew what they were spending, knew where the money was going, and try to be able to make sure that they were an effective agency. I think all agencies need to be audited on a biannual basis to make sure we know where the money's going and that the tax dollars that Wyoming is spending is being effective. And just for those that are out there, $150 million for a high school is not free money. It may not come out of your pocket here, but when you go to the gas station, the grocery store, that's called inflation. One way or the other, money's coming out of your pocket, whether it's local or federal dollars. Money's not free.
Thank you, Marshall. And again, the topic, state budget management. Cody.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, the high school is not free. It's going to cost $158 million, but the state's safe for that. Last 2 years, we have put $2 billion away, and that's great. And at times, we were accused of spending like drunken sailors. because we're putting some of that money in these accounts that fund these different programs, but the accounts are inviolate. So once you put the money in those accounts, you can never take them back out again. That money stays there, and it creates revenue for the different programs and accounts that we have. Actually, 30% of our general budget right now is revenue generated from investments. So that all comes from that money that we're putting into these inviolate accounts. I see that as being conservative and being savvy and not spending too much, but enough to keep up with things. And especially with infrastructure, if you wanna govern by crisis, you wait till something fails, and then everybody runs around like chickens with their heads cut off, saying, "Oh, the sky is falling, the sky is falling." No, let's make correct decisions now, today, to save money for the future.
Thank you, Cody. And 30 seconds for rebuttal. Laura, if you so choose.
One of the things I was going to bring up is just that my opponent had voted against the special session, which did have some bills in regards to life, the gun-free zones, and to property tax reform. And it was the best bill that we had. It would have taken the levels of the homes assessment down to 2019 to 2021 and capped it.
Thank you, Laura. Marshall, 30 seconds for you, my friend.
Yes, sir. We can't keep calling our actions conservative and pat ourselves in the back when we try to put $2 billion in savings account that we can no longer touch, and then turn around and try to figure out how to raise fees and taxes, mill levies, ambulance tax, districts. If the money's in there and we have billions to save, then we can give some of that money back and ease the burden on the taxpayers. It's not a conservative thought to save money and then turn around and tax us again.
Thank you, Marshall. And we're up against a hard time, so we've got most of the ground covered during this debate. Thank you all. Let's move right along now to our closing statements, and let me begin once again with Laura Mckee.
Well, the 10th Amendment states the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, not prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. We need to be strong and courageous. We need to stand up against federal government overreach and this socialist agenda by passing good legislation and, if necessary, fighting in a court of law against the federal government policies that are putting our oil and coal out of business and causing all the issues in our schools. We must fight for our natural resources. They've been the backbone since the beginning of our great state. None of this can be changed overnight, but with true conservative legislatures, we can make some great changes to help the citizens of Wyoming overcome these challenges. I wouldn't be running if my opponent was a conservative candidate. I want to bring Wyoming values back to our great state and work with other legislators to find common sense solutions to our problems. I will represent the people of Wyoming with integrity, honesty, and I will fearlessly fight to defend our rights, our freedoms, and I would appreciate your vote on August the 20th.
Thank you, and with a closing statement, Marshall Burt.
Okay, Johnny, I'll cut this one short for time. So, again, thank you all to the voters that have tuned in to become more informed in our state issues. At the end of the day, it'll be you, the voters, that determine your own outcome. When you see your future property taxes go up, you can thank Cody here for voting to support the largest state spending budget in Wyoming's history. That spending is backed by your tax dollars. I'm not against effective government operations that are held accountable to the people. What I am against is when politicians spend your money for you before you have a chance to buy food or rent. I have a proven track record of fighting both federal and state government overreach. I am a solid advocate for our Second Amendment rights, and I used to own a lot of guns until I lost them in a fishing accident. I understand the 10th Amendment and the powers that the states' rights have over the federal government, but we need to choose to use them. We can't continue to claim it's against the law federally. It's not directed by power within the Constitution. It becomes a state right. We need to act upon that. Again, I'd like to be honored to receive your support and your vote on August 20th for House District 39. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. And closing statement, Cody Wylie.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we heard a lot of ideas tonight, a lot of libertarian and socialist ideas. But I want to get back to it. I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. This has truly been an honorable and humbling experience for me to be able to represent my community in Cheyenne. I would like to apologize to my constituents. Because I stood up for our communities and our state, my character has been attacked in your mailboxes, on your cell phone, at your doorsteps. These accusations and attacks are frivolous and lies. I don't condone any of it. And as an elected officials, or people that desire to be an elected official, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. And this isn't just for me, this is for future elections. And if we're not careful, all we're going to have is a seasonal game show. I've been endorsed by our miners, our oil workers, our contractors, our ranchers, our first responders, our health providers, and several of our local elected officials. I've been a strong voice for our industries in Cheyenne, lower utility rates, and the ability to produce coal-fired power. I advocate for economic growth in our community and will always use intelligent thought to plan for the future and not just govern by crisis. This is because Wyoming's future is bright, and so is ours. It's all about good jobs, good schools, opportunity, and good lives. It's our responsibility not only to make good decisions for today, but also for our children 30 years from now. I promise to continue the work for the future, and a vote for Wylie is a vote for Wyoming. And hopefully my little kid that would be over here in the rafters and going through everybody's laps, you get to share that bright future with yours as well. That's what I intend to do. Thank you.
Cody, Wylie, Laura Mckee, Marshall, Burt, ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for Wyoming House District 39. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, joining us at the Broadway Theater and those tuning in online with YO4 News on Facebook. Let's continue our discussion this evening, moving along with House District 48. Clark Stith, our incumbent, and the challenger, Darin McCann. As we also did in our previous debates, we'll let the challenger begin with an opening statement. Darin?
My name's Darin McCann, running for House District 48. I'm just like many Wyomingites in that I assumed that my representatives in Cheyenne were Republicans who supported the Wyoming Republican platform. I was approached by a church member in May of this year and told that I needed to run because other than Scott Heiner, Sweetwater County was sending only rhinos to the Wyoming House. I replied that I don't think you want me to run. I'm not sure I have the temperament for politics. My temperament has been tested, but God has come through and given me the peace and strength that I have prayed for. I really had no intention or desire to run for office prior to this occasion. I've only recently become educated on the gravity of what exactly is happening at our state's capital, and rather than simply complain, I've decided to join the fight to make our representative republic actually represent the people of Wyoming. I am here because these current representatives do not present themselves or their voting records accurately, let alone what they do in Cheyenne. They absolutely count on the fact that we do not check their record. I have only touched on the surface of their work, and I assure you there's a whole lot of smoke and mirrors to what they say compared to what they do in Cheyenne. The more I investigate, the more concern I have. Just like I joined the fight to protect our country when I swore an oath to the Constitution and to protect the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, as an airborne infantry paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, and later as a Special Forces medic. I have joined the fight to hopefully ward off the political tyranny that is happening across this state and country right beneath our noses. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Darin. And again, with 2 minutes, opening statement, Clark Stith.
Good evening. My name is Clark Stith. I'm running for re-election to be the Republican nominee for House District 48. I want to thank the Sweetwater County Republican Party, YO4 News, Johnny K, for hosting this event, and for you in the audience and the timekeepers, thank you so much. I currently serve as the Speaker Pro Tem of the Wyoming House of Representatives on the Appropriations Committee, Management Council, and the Regulatory Reduction Task Force. Since my first legislative session in 2018, I've sought to implement core Republican values of individual liberty, personal responsibility, and self-reliance. So, for example, my first bill was the Medicaid Fairness Act, which tells high-income single fathers, the government's not going to pay for the birth costs of your child. You pay for that. That's personal responsibility. I fought corruption. I drafted what became the interference with public contracting law to make sure that our public contracts are clean. As we'll discuss more, I fought federal government overreach for lower property taxes, parental rights in education, the Second Amendment, and for school choice. I care deeply about Rock Springs, Sweetwater County, and Wyoming. I've raised my family here. I have 2 sons, Stephen and Jackson, daughter Kiersey, and love of my life, Lisa Ryberg. There are differences between me and my opponent. I'm a Republican. For the past 27 years, I've worked to build the Republican Party from the minority that it was to the majority that it is today. I was Republican before being Republican was cool. My opponent first registered as a Republican on May 22nd, 2024. Before that, in 2020, registered as a member of the Constitution Party. We'll be able to talk about that, and there are real differences. And when you go home tonight, I want you to understand where each of us stands. And I'm happy to talk about my record all day long. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. And before we continue with our first series of questions, Darin, if I can have you move your microphone a little closer to your mouth, please. And with that, we'll be ready to begin. First series of questions, the topic, long-term fiscal planning. And Darin, I'd like to begin with you. The question is as follows. How would you address Wyoming's long-term fiscal challenges, such as fluctuating energy revenues and economic diversification? Also, what is your vision for ensuring sustainable fiscal health?
First of all, it's hard to do any financial planning, let alone long-term financial planning, if you don't know where the money goes. We haven't had a top-to-bottom audit since 1989. How much is enough? I mean, how much? We got a rainy day fund with almost $30 billion in it. We got these about 600 coffee cans that no one seems to. There's a few people that know how much money's in them, but the general knowledge within the legislature, nobody knows how much is in there. I think we, the state has enough of the taxpayers' money. I think it's a fool's errand to pretend to plan when they really don't have any idea where all the money is or where it's going. And a lot of times we don't even know if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And again, let me pose the same question to Clark. How would you address Wyoming's long-term fiscal challenges, such as fluctuating energy revenues and economic diversification? Also, what is your vision for ensuring sustainable fiscal health?
Well, what we know about Wyoming's fiscal profile is that half of our tax money, half of our revenue comes from the minerals industry: coal, oil, gas, trona. And what do we know about those industries? They're volatile. Trona is more stable, oil and gas very volatile, coal unpredictable. So what do we do about that? In 2021, for example, we were faced with an $877 million projected budget shortfall. So it's just like in the book of Genesis, when Pharaoh had a dream about the 7 fat cows coming out of the river that got eaten by the 7 skinny cows, and the skinny cows were still skinny even after they ate. And Joseph said, what that means is you're going to have 7 abundant years and 7 years of famine. So what do you do about that? You store up during the abundant years, and that's what we've done. We've put $2 billion roughly into savings just in the past 2 years. And I'm just surprised that anyone would criticize that, because that is how we plan for the future. That is how we make sure that when times are lean, when oil prices go down, and when coal prices go down, when coal volume goes down, that's how we know we're going to have it. Right now, our long-term fiscal profile is showing positive, but our investments are so important because 30% of our revenue comes from those investments. That's why we don't have to have an income tax.
Thank you, Clark. Darin, I'll offer you 30 seconds in rebuttal if you'd like. Very good, then. Let's move on to our next topic. On the lighter side of life, tourism. I'd like to begin with Clark Stith. The question, do you support the Wyoming Office of Tourism and its mission to ensure the continued growth and promotion of tourism in the state? Also, do you think that the statewide lodging tax is an appropriate tool to fund the program? Why or why not?
Thank you. So tourism is our second largest industry after mining. The lodging tax, the way it works right now, is there's a 5% statewide tax, and then there's an optional local 2%. Who pays that? Well, tourists pay that, typically people from out of state. So the benefits of the lodging tax and the tourism board are that tourists come here, they spend their money, but then they leave, and we don't have to pay to educate their children. So tourists are good value for that reason. So I'm supportive of our current tourist structure because out-of-staters are paying it, not us, for the most part. That's a good thing. There's one kind of tourism I don't like, though, and that's political tourism. And both I and my opponent have seen that. We have a lot of out-of-state money by groups that are putting mailers out that are simply not true. For example, this group Make Liberty Win, funded by Young Americans for Liberty, who are they? They're saying falsehoods about me, for example, like I'm trying to sell out the state to the Chinese Communist Party, for example, when what I'm really trying to do is protect the Trona mines. Young Americans for Liberty, what are they about? They want to legalize drugs, not just marijuana, LSD, opioids. My opponent and I have become practically bystanders in in our own elections and our own campaigns because we have so much out-of-state money coming in. And the real issue is, will you be deciding the election, or will it be decided by out-of-state interests?
Thank you, Clark. And again, regarding the topic of tourism, Darin, do you support the Wyoming Office of Tourism and its mission to ensure the continued growth and promotion of tourism in the state? Also, do you think that the statewide lodging tax is an appropriate tool to fund that program? Why or why not?
First of all, I do agree with my opponent about the out-of-state money. I would agree with him 100%, and it works both ways for sure. As far as tourism, yeah, I definitely support that. It just comes down to, okay, who gets what? You either have the attractions or you don't. So you have to take that into context as well. The lodging tax, I support it, but I think we should, if you have a Wyoming's driver license, because we do a lot of traveling. especially people with school-age children. They're traveling for high school sports and all that. So if they have a Wyoming driver's license, they should be exempt from the tax myself. So that's one thing I would change about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Darin. And Clark, anything in rebuttal?
Idea. I don't think we can exempt a Wyoming resident from a tax because it has to be applied to everybody. But you could explore a lodging tax refund program, for example, for people who travel. Because I know with parents of sports teams, they are traveling here locally and they are paying significant lodging tax.
Very good. Let's move right along, the topic being Second Amendment. And Darin, I'd like to begin with you, sir, and the question, what is your stance on Second Amendment rights in Wyoming? How would you balance gun rights with public safety concerns?
My statement is nullify, nullify, nullify. I don't believe that the federal government should have any standing on what we can or can't have as far as weapons. I do believe that a armed society is a polite society. There's always going to have people that take advantage of things. It doesn't matter what you do. How many people get caught drinking and driving? How many people kill people drinking and driving? But we don't talk about taking cars. It's the same thing. I really would like to see a state like Wyoming start a nullify, because I think if we did, say, nullify the NFA, the National Firearms Act, I really think the other states would follow, and we could actually get our rights back. I think it's a little ridiculous that, suppressors are a Class 2 item. But other than that, I have an FFL myself, so I'm definitely pro Second Amendment. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And Clark, let me offer you the same question. What is your stance on the Second Amendment rights in Wyoming, and how would you balance gun rights with public safety concerns?
I have a strong voting record of supporting the Second Amendment. I was a co-sponsor of the Stand Your Ground legislation here in Wyoming. I voted for the Second Amendment Protection Act, and most recently voted for the Wyoming Repeal Gun-Free Zones Act. I'm endorsed by the National Rifle Association. But speaking of this, again, back to political tourism, if you live in my district, you may have received a text message just an hour or two ago saying that from this organization from Iowa, saying that I was against Stand Your Ground. And it's ludicrous. I was a co-sponsor of the Stand Your Ground legislation here in Wyoming. There may be a difference between me and my opponent, however, because if there's a bill that comes across that violates the Constitution of the state of Wyoming or the Constitution of the United States of America, I'm very unlikely to vote for that, because I believe, I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. So I would not believe in nullification of taking votes that are unconstitutional.
Very good. Thank you, Clark. And Darin, anything in rebuttal to that question?
It's one thing. He did, and all of the incumbents for the legislature that are debating here today and yesterday, they all did vote for the repeal gun-free zones. But 2 years ago, one of the incumbents sat up here and said he would stick his knife in the ground for the Second Amendment. And the governor vetoed that and 4 other bills that were very, very good. And rather than go into special session,
sorry, we're out of time. Clark, did you have something to offer?
Briefly on the special session, I was as surprised as anyone of the governor's vetoes. But our choice was, do we want to go back into a special session and risk everything we've achieved? So, for example, we would have put on the chopping block the new Rock Springs High School that we fought very hard to get. So I thought going for a special session, was not advisable, and that we can fix it next session.
Very good. And Darin, I'll be happy to come back to you if you like. One final thought.
Well, that would have been a really good opportunity for the incumbents to stand up for what they said they were going to stand up for. It's just that one thing. I think that would have been a good opportunity for them to keep a promise.
Very good. We'll leave it there and move right along to infrastructure. I'll begin the questions with Clark Stith. What specific legislative initiatives do you plan to pursue to address infrastructure challenges in our local district? Also, how do you intend to prioritize funding and resources for critical infrastructure projects that are vital to Sweetwater County's growth and development?
We were able to appropriate significant funds that helped Sweetwater County. So there's not just the high school, but there was the Green River wastewater treatment plant. We were able to secure $7 million of funding for that through the ARPA program, and then an additional $7 million for the water treatment plant because it has a single point of failure. All of the water that comes into Rock Springs, of course, is pumped here from Green River, all of the clean water. And for whatever reason, there's just one set of pumps that does that, and it's a single point of failure. And so this $7 million is crucial to making sure that we have a backup system so that water continues to flow. On infrastructure generally, what we need to do is have a program where we maintain things at the appropriate level. So it's not just enough to build something, you have to maintain it. And so we're looking carefully at how much money is appropriate for maintenance, because if you put good maintenance into it, it's cheaper than having to tear it down later and fix it. So we've been, on the Appropriations Committee, examining increasing the percentage of replacement value allocated to maintenance each year.
Thank you, Clark. And Darin, again, the question regarding infrastructure. What specific legislative initiatives do you plan to pursue to address infrastructure challenges in our local district? Also, how do you intend to prioritize funding and resources for critical infrastructure projects that are vital to Sweetwater County's growth and development?
Well, I'd agree with my opponent on everything he said. We definitely got to maintain roads, bridges, water, and the maintenance thereof. There is shelf lives to certain equipment, so you definitely got to maintain it. You learn that in the military. It's called PMCS. What I think we need to work on is, accountability, because a lot of this money just, it's use it or lose it type stuff. And then, as far as infrastructure for meta centers and nuclear plants and green energy, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. They're already subsidized, so I don't think the taxpayers should have to give up their hard-earned money for that type of stuff. I mean, they're rich companies. There's no reason why they can't take care of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Darin. And Clark, anything in rebuttal?
Or is it for now? Infrastructure is a big topic, but I think we've covered the high points. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Well, let's move right along, try to get in as much ground covered as we can. The next topic of questions, I'd like to begin with Darin, and property tax reform. Darin, do you give support, or I should say, do you support property tax relief measures for homeowners, such as exemptions or caps? Given the potential for property tax reform to affect state and local revenue, what alternative sources of revenue would you consider to maintain fiscal stability?
Well, we definitely need property tax reform. There is a blueprint that several of the legislators are looking at for eliminating property taxes. It's not going to happen overnight. But the basic premise of it is spend less, tax less, and limit the government, basically limit their spending. I think there's some smoke and mirrors going on with the bill that was passed. There was a bill that was presented. It was originally presented as a 5% cap. There was an amendment to keep the cap at 3%. All of the incumbents voted against that. There was a follow-on amendment to keep it at 4%. All of the incumbents voted against that, and then there was a third amendment to keep it at the 2021 levels, and that was voted against as well. Only when it was at 5% did they vote for it, and it passed. It went to 4% when it went to the Senate. Thank you.
Thanks, Darin. And again, regarding property tax reform, let me get the question again for Clark. Do you support property tax relief measures for homeowners, such as exemptions or caps? Given the potential for property tax reform to affect state and local revenue, what alternative sources of revenue would you consider to maintain fiscal responsibility? Or I should say, fiscal stability.
Thank you. So I voted in favor of House Bill 45, which capped your future property tax increases at 4%. It's true when it left the House it was at 5%. Senate was made at 3%. We compromised at 4%. What that does is it prevents surprise billing on your property tax, because property values went up about 8% here locally. That'll save you a couple $100 yet this year. I voted in favor of Senate File 54, which is a 25% cut in residential property tax. We did push, that was vetoed by the governor. We did push through the tax refund program. We've generously funded that, so now you can get a 75% refund on your taxes up to that amount. If you are at $116,000 or less in your household income. And then if you're a long-term resident, 25 years or more in Wyoming, and you're over 65, you get half off in your taxes, and that'll be good for the 2024 tax year. There's something on the constitutional, on the ballot in November. It's a ways off now. Please vote yes for the constitutional amendment. That will allow us to change the rate of taxation on residential property tax. Right now, we can't give residential and commercial are taxed at the same rate in the Constitution, so we can't give a rate reduction for residential without giving the same rate reduction to Home Depot and Walmart and other commercial businesses. So please vote yes to free that up. And my time is running out. We'd like to talk more about that, but just know your property tax goes 70% to schools and 30% goes to local government.
Thank you, Clark. Darin, a rebuttal if you choose.
One small one on Senate File 54. That was vetoed by the governor. But again, that would have been a perfect opportunity to go into special session to keep a promise.
Very good. Thank you. I think we can sneak in one more topic. So let's do that with housing, and I'd like to pose the question first to Clark Stith. What strategies do you propose to tackle the housing crisis affecting our community? Furthermore, how will you work with local governments, developers, and community organizations to increase affordable housing options and ensure sustainable housing policies for all residents of Sweetwater County?
Thank you. First off, let me say I'm not a big fan of government housing per se. When I was much younger and was a foreign exchange student, I saw East Berlin. East Berlin, under communism, had a lot of government housing. You don't want that. What we can do, though, is reduce the regulatory burden. And I'm on the Regulatory Reduction Task Force. We're looking at that right now. Some things, minimum lot sizes, for example. If a minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, what does that do? Contractors, developers, they have to make money. So if it's a 10,000 square foot lot, you have to build a $500,000 home or so, or something more pretty expensive to make that worthwhile. I'm against minimum lot sizes. Cities should be able to have smaller lot sizes, say 7,000 square feet. We did that once for the Gunsight subdivision when I was on city council here, and that worked out well to make those houses more affordable and make it work for the contractor. Other government regulatory barriers include a project I've been working on for a long time, which is the neighborhood that's just across the railroad tracks here, the Bitter Creek area. It's a 20 square block area where there's only been one new home built in the last 5 decades. And why is that? It's a travesty. And the one that has been built is on stilts. And the reason is because it's in the floodplain. So the purpose of the Bitter Creek project isn't for the creek itself, is to get it out of the floodplain. We're working on that and making progress. So deregulation and getting AML funding to fix.
Thank you, Clark. And Darin, final question. What strategies do you propose to tackle the housing crisis affecting our community? How will you work with local governments, developers, and community organizations to increase affordable housing options and ensure sustainable housing policies for all residents of Sweetwater County?
Stole my card. I agree with everything that my opponent says. The main thing is I think we, as state legislators, we are facilitators. We're not dictators. The local people on the ground are the ones you need to listen to, and we should just facilitate what they feel is the best. I don't think, we don't want the feds in our business, and I don't think the locals want the states in their business other than facilitating, not dictating. Thank you.
Very good, and thank you. Clark, anything in rebuttal?
No, thank you. Just we need to keep working on it so we can have affordable housing here in Sweetwater County and across Wyoming.
Thank you both. That's about going to close out this part of the debate. So with that, let's go to closing statements. And Darin.
All for having me and having this debate. I think this is good business, and it gives you a better idea of who you want to help run the state. Okay, I will advocate for a vision of Wyoming and Rock Springs that cherishes personal freedom, economic prosperity, and limited government intervention. Our founding principles emphasize the importance of individual rights and responsibilities, and it is through this lens that I present my arguments. Firstly, the right to bear arms is enriched in our Constitution. It is a fundamental liberty that empowers citizens to protect themselves, their families, and their property. By supporting pro-gun policies, we uphold this essential freedom and ensure that law-abiding citizens are not left defenseless in times of need. Secondly, lowering property taxes is crucial for fostering economic growth and alleviating the financial burden on homeowners. High property taxes can stifle economic development, deter investment, and make it harder for families to achieve the American dream of home ownership. By reducing these taxes, we stimulate local economies, create jobs, and provide a fairer system that allows individuals to keep more of their hard-earned money. Additionally, decreasing regulation is vital for innovation and entrepreneurship. Overregulation hampers business growth, increases costs, and discourages startups. By streamlining regulations, we create an environment where business can thrive, compete nationally, and drive economic progress. This, in turn, leads to more opportunities and a higher standard of living for all Wyomings and Americans. Moreover, a government that is too involved in our daily lives undermines the very essence of liberty. We must advocate for a smaller government that respects individual autonomy and minimizes interference. A government that trusts its citizens to make their own.
Thank you, Darin. Apologize, we ran out of time. Okay. And now finally with closing statement, Clark?
Thank you. I want to again thank our hosts here this evening and thank the audience. Thank you so much for having the patience to sit through what sometimes can be dry and dull discussion about public policy and taxes and all of the things that go on with government. If we do our jobs right, then the business of our government should be boring. It should be something that you don't have to worry about at night. I love this community. I love the Wyoming legislature. And politics, this whole process, sometimes it seems like it's ugly, sometimes it gets rough and tumble, but it's how we get things done. And I think it's important for us to be civilized and realize when we're talking with someone, if we have a disagreement about something with them, whether the property tax rate should be this or that other person, they want what's best for the state too. That what they want is for the good of our community. Civility is really important. There's been a lot of focus in the media on all the divisions in the Wyoming legislature. But really, when you look back on it, the things that we got done, there was broad consensus on gun rights, on Repeal Gun-Free Zones Act, passed with big majorities on both sides. On Chloe's Law, passed with big majorities on both sides. On keeping men out of women's sports, passed with big majorities on both sides. We can get things done. I'm reminded of the general Pericles after the first year of the Peloponnesian War. It was a rough year, and he came back and he was addressing the soldiers, and he said, "Our love of what is beautiful does not lead to extravagance. We do not say that someone who takes no interest in politics minds his own business. We say they have no business being here at all."
Clark Stith, Darin McCann, ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for House District 48. Thank you, gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll do a quick turnaround and we will welcome our candidates for House District 60. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be getting underway just momentarily. And Liz, excuse me, was there something you were going to share with everyone this evening?
All right, thank you so much. For House District 47, Bob Davis, he does not actually have a Republican incumbent, but 2 years ago, or excuse me, he's the incumbent. Hold on. That is too hard. He is the incumbent, but he does not have a primary opponent. So 2 years ago when we did this, we had everyone that was not contested in the race provide a statement. And he's unable to attend because he's not in town, so I am reading this for him. So Bob Davis, House District 47. I'm sorry that I'm not able to attend this debate in person. My name is Bob Davis. I am from Baggs, Wyoming. I currently represent the voters of House District 47. House District 47 is 2,200 square miles in size and represents Medicine Bow, Elk Mountain, Hanna, Saratoga, Riverside, Encampment, Savory, Dixon, Baggs, Wamsutter, Superior, Farson, Eden, and Reliance communities. Did you catch that's a big district? My experience on multiple community, county, and state boards, along with my business background in the oil and gas industry, hospitality business, ranching, conservation issues, give me a good background to represent the voters in House District 47. As your representative, we need to focus on the issues and how they directly affect House District 47. The war on fossil fuels and public lands affect our jobs, recreational opportunities, and the revenue it brings to House District 47. He's kind of talking about the Rock Springs RMP. We must seriously consider the drought conditions in the West and how Wyoming addresses the Green River and Platte River basins and the continuing decline of water yields from our mountain snowpack. I believe the state of Wyoming needs to push back against the federal government's overreach into our livelihood and backyards, stand up for Wyoming jobs, and how we manage the lands of Wyoming. Fight against regulations and rules coming from the administration at every turn. Tax relief is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. We need to look at how our current tax structure can be updated to meet all the services that depend on it. We can look at the formulas that distribute revenue from the state's investment and savings accounts and redirect them to help backfill the shortfalls. If the war on fossil fuels continues in Wyoming, the future may depend upon uranium and rare earth minerals for our jobs and revenue sources. If you have any questions or concerns, please call Bob at 307-380-6457. He would appreciate your vote on the August 20th primary. Sincerely yours, Bob Davis.
All right, thank you. Let's jump in with opening statements. House District 60, your incumbent is Tony Niemiec, and the challenger, Marlene Brady. Marlene? I'm sorry?
We can have lights here and not there? Oh, okay. It just looked different from out there. Opening statements. Good evening. Thank you for being here and tuning in online. I'm Marlene Brady, running for Wyoming State Representative, House District 60 in Green River. I've lived in Green River nearly 50 years. Actually, this year will be my 50th. I am retired. My husband is the manager of a small business. Together we have 2 fabulous children, our daughter-in-love, and our 2 amazing grandchildren. Glad to have one here, and my 2 kids, all of whom live in Green River area. And these people are another reason why I'm running, and it's for their futures. We homeschooled our children, which was a true blessing. I'm a graduate of UW with a master's in public administration and political science. Article 1, Section 28 of the Wyoming Constitution states that no tax shall be imposed without the consent of the people or their authorized representatives. As your House District 60 representative, I will always vote to limit the growth of government, not expand it. I will always vote to limit taxation, not increase it. I will always seat the people at the table, not scrounging for crumbs off the floor. Government that governs least governs best, and government closest to the people governs best. I will defend your liberties and rights against growing government tyranny, both state and federal, and I will represent we, the people.
Thank you, Marlene. And with an opening statement, Tony Niemiec.
Thank you, Sweetwater GOP, Wild 4 News, Bruce Pivick, and Johnny Kay for hosting this debate. My name is Tony Niemiec. I have lived in Green River for 48 years and graduated from Green River High School in 1987. Upon graduation, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, serving for over 13 years. In 2000, I returned to Green River and was hired by the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office, serving 22 years as a detention officer, patrol deputy, detective, and bomb technician until my retirement in 2023. I've been the House District 60 representative since 2022. As a military and law enforcement veteran, I am dedicated to building a safe and prosperous Wyoming. The Fraternal Order of Police, as well as the Federated Firefighters of Wyoming, have endorsed me because of my support for first responders. As your representative, I will continue to collaborate with industry leaders to support existing industries and diversity of the state's economy. Because of this, I have been endorsed by the Wyoming Mining Association and the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. In my first term, I successfully sponsored and co-sponsored bills for Wyoming businesses, as well as property tax exemption, as well as school safety and security. I've been endorsed by the National Rifle Association for my 100% pro-gun votes while serving as your representative. I currently serve on the House Judiciary Committee and the Highway Military Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And let's jump right in. Our first topic is going to cover mental health education. And Marlene, I'd like to begin with you. Suicide and other mental health challenges are prevalent among veterans, law enforcement personnel, as well as the general public in Wyoming. How would you ensure that educators, law enforcement, and community leaders receive adequate training to recognize and respond to these mental health issues?
Thank you. I would say when it comes to veterans suicide, unfortunately, there seems to be a growing decline in mental health providers, whether telehealth or, in these rural areas. But at least we have our facility in Sheridan to handle mental health cases. When it comes to the general public, and we could talk about schools and what could be happening with our children when it comes to what we're teaching: diversity, equity, inclusion, social emotional learning, gender dysphoria, identity, critical race theory, social engineering. But our schools need to be a sanctuary for students to learn, not to indoctrination station. I believe mental health is a gateway to gun control. I support the Second Amendment, and it was written for the Constitution. A long run is to create a nanny state for socialism. I'm compassionate about regarding mental health, but we need approaches from a holistically, not just push psychotropic drugs. Wyoming is not into banning firearms, but better mental health services in school. Guns don't do the shootings, it's the person. Mental health care plus protection of 2A amendment rights. Education and about maladaptive behavior and how to recognize it. Look into red flag education where we can show our people how we can call.
Thank you, Marlene. And same question, Tony. Suicide and other mental health challenges are prevalent among veterans, law enforcement personnel, as well as the general public in Wyoming. How would you ensure that educators, law enforcement, and community leaders receive adequate training to recognize and respond to these mental health issues?
Well, it's been estimated that 22 veterans a day leave this world by suicide, by their own hands, as well as quite a few law enforcement officers. And me being in both of those groups, I've lost many of friends to veteran suicide as well as law enforcement suicide. I supported the 988 suicide hotline. I also was a co-sponsor of House Bill 119, the school finance mental health service grants, but that failed to make it an introduction. We need to continue these programs in our schools and in our communities to help our children, our veterans, and others that are seeking help for suicide. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And Marlene, a 30-second rebuttal if you'd like.
I just wanted to add, if I may, on that red flag is when we're talking about this too, education, kind of like the, where we can recognize some of the signs and symptoms of depression, suicide, and be able to call in and what I'm trying to say is to identify and help these people ahead of time before suicide, and if we can educate our people to watch for those signs.
Thank you, Marlene. Let's move right along. Our next topic covering law enforcement and homeland security. Tony, I'd like to direct the first question to yourself. What is your position on the creation of a dedicated law enforcement and homeland security committee inside the state legislature? Also, do you believe such a committee is necessary? If so, what specific issues and initiatives should it focus on to enhance the safety and security of Wyoming residents?
Great question. I'm all for setting up another committee for Homeland Security, or setting up a committee for Homeland Security. This last session, I successfully ran a budget amendment to help fund the regional emergency response teams as well as the bomb squads throughout the state. Now, we haven't received any money since 2007 for the regional response teams and the hazardous devices teams. So all that equipment is old, it's broken, it doesn't work. So we need to look with the state to help, because from the data that I've been seeing, we are getting ready for a bombing campaign to come into this nation, whether it's outside entities, foreign hostiles, or internal hostiles. It's coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And Marlene, same question to yourself. What is your position on the creation of a dedicated law enforcement and homeland security committee in the state legislature? Also, do you believe such a committee is necessary? If so, what specific issues and initiatives should it focus on to enhance the safety and security of Wyoming residents?
I think creating a committee to focus on homeland security would be fine. As we were saying there, it's a very volatile situation with, we don't even know who's coming over the border. When it comes to law enforcement, we need to be sure law enforcement is properly equipped to do their jobs, both training and equipment. As new technology and innovation evolves, proper training through that evolution is key to ensure law enforcement can do their jobs. The world is not a safe place. People have a false sense of security that I'm safe. No government can provide a basic fundamental rights of self-defense. If we had a safe society, it would be a police state with no liberty. Free people need to live by the consequences of their actions in order to maintain social order. Otherwise, if we cede to any entity, we are giving up our liberty. We need to once again learn to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and self-governing. It's not about passing more laws, but about respecting the community. Laws passed don't reduce behavior such as speeding. Most everyone still speeds. But when we're talking about not knowing who's coming across the border and creating a homeland security, that would be a wise move, although I don't want the government to put more of a thumb on us. and control us rather than looking to control outside people that are trying to hurt us for any reason.
Thank you, Marlene. Tony, 30 seconds in rebuttal.
Thank you. I just returned from a trip to Yuma, Arizona to visit the border wall, and I witnessed firsthand undocumented illegal aliens coming across. And, I think they said like 85% of the fentanyl coming into this country is coming in through that border, as well as possibly terrorists and people we just don't know about. So Homeland Security, we need it, and we need it.
Thank you, Tony. Let's move right along our next series of questions covering veteran services. Marlene, I'd like to begin with you, please. And the question is as follows. What specific policies or initiatives do you plan to implement to improve services and support for veterans in their state?
That last word you said, and their what?
Let me give it all through.
Thank you.
What specific policies or initiatives do you plan to implement to improve services and support for veterans in our state?
Thank you. I totally agree that our veterans should be taken care of, especially the disabled due to service. I've worked with the Veterans Administration for over 16 years, and I'm extremely familiar with veteran service issues. Many of our veteran services are covered on the federal level. A lot of a veteran's opinions of available services is based off of their own experience, not what is actually out there. Some seek services for the first time, perhaps even 30 years after leaving active duty. When seeking services, I suggest not to accept the hurry up and wait answer they usually get. Rather, become more aware of services and seek assistance from organizations such as DAV, etc., who deal with veteran services on a day-to-day basis. Because of a question, if a question isn't asked, it's always a no. The only thing we need to be careful of is that we don't turn our veterans who served our country into an entitlement program such as Social Security. Even the Veterans Administration is advising veterans to be wary of outside advertisement to establish or increase disability benefits, which actually takes money away from the U.S. government and veterans themselves, with associated fees deducted from the veterans' payment. The only reason outside advertisers are in it is to take money from the American taxpayers and the veterans themselves. We should give complete information to veterans before leaving service, what their benefits actually are and what to expect, home loans, education, etc. I would help.
Thank you, Marlene. And Tony, let me come back to you regarding veteran services. The question again, what specific policies or initiatives do you plan to implement to improve services and support for veterans in our state?
Well, I've been a member with every single veteran service organization in Sweetwater County. And so I've got about 20 years of dealing with all them organizations and helping veterans, track down their benefits. Now, the state of Wyoming provides pretty good stuff to veterans coming into the state, but we're not the best. There's a couple other states out there that have better state benefits, and I would like to take a look at that, maybe increase some of that, because it'd be really good to start attracting those retired veterans and those 100% disabled veterans to move to our state to bring in more funding for our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And Marlene, 30 seconds back to you if you'd like.
Very good on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Let's move right along. Our next topic being legislative priorities. Tony, I'd like to pose the first question to you. What is your number one legislative priority for supporting the needs of local communities in your district? How do you plan to address this priority, and what specific actions will you take to ensure it is effectively met?
Thank you, Johnny. My number one priority would be industry, of course, followed by small businesses to help out, try and get rid of some of the regulations to bring those businesses in, as well as law enforcement support. We got to support our law enforcement. 22 years of doing it. We need to increase our people's support for our local law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marlene, same question to yourself. What is your number one legislative priority for supporting the needs of local communities in your district? Also, how do you plan to address this priority, and what specific actions will you take to ensure it is effectively met?
I would say my top legislative priority would be to work on true property tax relief and reform. Even a 4% cap is no relief, as property tax would double every 17 years. We need a tourniquet, not a 4% Band-Aid on a gushing wound. Our Wyoming citizens are overtaxed. I was involved excuse me, the Wyoming ballot initiative for this 50% tax exemption. But let me remind everyone, in just 2 days, the county will conduct its annual property tax sale to satisfy unpaid county taxes to the treasurer. Just for 2024, and in Sweetwater County alone, more than 200 homes and businesses delinquent on taxes will be auctioned off. Those property owners will then have 4 years to pay off the new certificate holder, including interest charges and fees, or lose the home. If they can't pay the taxes now, how can they expect to pay them? Additional fees and interest added. Our neighbors are hurting, as they obviously can't afford the exorbitant property tax burden. This is just a Band-Aid to temporarily keep the wolf at bay. I will work on election and you said my top. I would fight for and propose if this 50% ballot initiative doesn't go forward on this 2024, I would sponsor legislation to put it forth, make it effective next year as if it were on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Tony, anything in rebuttal? All right, thank you, sir. Let's move right along, and Marlene, I'd like to begin the series of questions with yourself and the topic, transportation infrastructure. Marlene, considering the increased pressures on Wyoming's transportation system, what solutions would you support or propose to provide appropriate and flexible funding for the Wyoming Department of Transportation? Further, how would you ensure that our transportation infrastructure is maintained and improved to meet current and future demands?
Thank you. As it was mentioned several times, WYDOT claims a $4 million shortfall. I'm sorry, excuse me. Short of what? Pardon me. It's time for a review of the books, and WYDOT is off the budget, a standalone entity. We need a WYDOT overhaul with new ideas. Career engineers continue to award the same processes to the same contractors with below standard results. Too many layers of administration, a huge bureaucracy which is grossly inefficient and top-heavy. Cut the layers of administration. Professionals don't need 3 or 4 layers over them. We need to take another look at the technology to improve the way we build roads and bridges. The current way we're doing it, the roads last 2 to 3 years before tarring, chip sealing, re-asphalting, repaving, which is a waste of taxpayer money. We can do a better job the first time so that we don't have to come back over and over using the current substandard processes. We are building roads and bridges to fail with perpetual road work contracts. We should look at a time-tested technology for roads and bridges that last 25 to 30 years. Soil cement, cement stabilized base, or cement treated aggregate base lasts longer and is much more economical, less maintenance cost, and widely available. Roads should be made to last, not to be fixed. Dependable roads connect our communities and provide safe travels.
Thank you, Marlene. And Tony, the same question. Considering the increased pressures on Wyoming's transportation system, what solutions would you support or propose to provide appropriate and flexible funding for the Wyoming Department of Transportation? Further, how would you ensure that our transportation infrastructure is maintained and improved to meet both current and future demands?
Thank you, Johnny. Interstate 80 is a priority for Wyoming. We need to ensure that that interstate is up to top-notch standards. And, like my opponent said, WYDOT is a standalone entity. We need to look at it. We need to look at it hard. I've been told that there's way too many engineers. I don't know if that's true, but maybe they can shift around some of those dollars to help with road maintenance. And I will be looking into that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And Marlene, any rebuttal? 30 seconds if you'd like.
No, I think that's fine. We're good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Let's sneak in one more topic. And let's cover water if we could. Tony, I'd like to begin with you. With the potential for downstream states to make future calls on Wyoming's waters, what strategies and policies do you propose to ensure sustainable water management and also address water scarcity issues in our own region?
Thank you. Well, we need to enforce the Colorado River compacts so that we can ensure that our agriculture has enough water, or our industry has enough water, as well as our communities. And when these downstream states start taking too much of their fair share, we need to fight back, and we need to fund for that fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And Marlene, let me give you the same question. With the potential for downstream states to make future calls on Wyoming's waters, what strategies and policies do you propose to ensure sustainable water management and address water scarcity issues in our region?
Well, I will start with this. Interstate water compacts are a bad deal for Wyoming. It takes away our sovereignty when we have to work with other states, if not solidly protecting Wyoming. As discussion of the renewal for the Colorado River Compact approaches, Wyoming should not reduce its current allotment of water. Keeping water allotment as is provides for industry, agriculture, and population needs. What we currently don't use goes downstream, but just because we don't use our full allotment now, we may need it later. The upper basin states have taken a hard stance against mandatory reductions to protect our farmers and ranchers. And here in Sweetwater County, we're expecting an economic boom with expansion in the drone industry as well as growth upstream in Lincoln County. With that comes a huge influx of population needing water. We can't take a reduction in current water allocation as Wyoming needs to maintain its amount to sustain itself for economic and residential growth. Wyoming needs its own water for Wyoming. We need to preserve our water to ensure it's available for Wyoming's economic growth. I will do everything I can to protect Wyoming's water, and I say no use or lose agreement.
Thank you, Marlene. And Tony, anything in rebut? Thank you very much. That's going to just about close out this portion of our debate. Of course, we've got our closing comments. And Marlene, we've got 2 minutes if you'd like to address us with your closing thoughts.
Okay, nothing on small business?
No, as I said,
Okay.
we're pressed for time.
Very
I apologize.
good, I'm sorry. Okay. Legislature has the authority to increase tax or not to increase tax. I will vote not to increase tax. I will work on actual relief and reform regarding property taxes, not a Band-Aid. Election integrity is imperative if we expect a true democratic vote. We must go back to one vote per valid Wyoming resident and paper ballots hand counted. If there is another declared pandemic, our governor needs to stand up this time and not lock out churches and schools while leaving open Walmarts and bars. We need a legislator who will stand up for the people. It's the people's house, and I will honor the people of Wyoming. We need to stop government overreach, frivolous spending, and stop putting money in reserves. If the people were overtaxed, then return that amount. Wyoming needs to be a sanctuary for its people if the federal government collapses, not to go down with it. I'm running for representative to bring conservatism back to my community, county, and state. Over the last couple of years, I've witnessed my local and county representatives voting in favor of increased size and scope of government, increased spending of nearly $3 billion in the government's proposed budget, and $5 million for an arboretum in Cheyenne. Frivolous, wasteful spending must end. I support a review and audit of our state accounting records to see where cuts can be made, identify wasteful spending, and eliminate any duplicated services. Newcomers to politics around the country have heeded the call to run for office at various levels to bring true conservatism back. In every state, people like me are standing up to take our cities, counties, and states and country back to we the people. Please join me with your support August 20th and November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. And if I may, you actually brought up a good point. Just so everybody knows, the candidates were given a heads up on what the general topics of questions may be, but they are hearing the questions for the first time this evening, and even myself received the questions about 30 minutes before we began. So I do appreciate you making mention of that. Finally, with 2 minutes and a closing statement, Tony Niemiec.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you again, Sweetwater GOP. WIO4 News, Bruce Pivick, and Johnny Kay for hosting this debate. As someone who has been a resident of Green River for 48 years and invested so much in our community, I want to thank you for your vote on August 20th. I want to continue to represent the people of Green River. I also want all the voters of House District 60 to know that I am not and will not be affiliated with the Freedom Caucus. I will follow the direction of the voters of House District 60. I will not follow the direction of out-of-state influences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony Niemiec, Marlene Brady. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for Wyoming House District 60. Thank you to both of our candidates. And ladies and gentlemen, again, we'll do a quick turnaround, and we've got one more debate for you this evening. 3 candidates vying for 2 seats on the Sweetwater County Board of Commissioners: Mary Thoman, Taylor Jones, and Rose Mosbey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude this, not only this evening's debates, but also this season's debates. 3 candidates vying for 2 spots on the Sweetwater County Board of Commissioners. Your incumbents, Taylor Jones, Mary Thoman, and challenger Rose Mosbey. So as we have for the other debates, let's begin with opening statements. And with 2 minutes, let me begin with Mary Thoman. Ma'am.
Oh. Thank you to Sweetwater County GOP and everyone who made this these sessions tonight possible. I am Mary Thoman. I am running for re-election to the Sweetwater County Commission. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to represent Sweetwater County on the commission for the last 3.5 years. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve you, and yes, stand up for you when it comes to county, state, and federal issues that matter to all of us. Please give me an opportunity to represent you for the next 4 years. Sweetwater County is facing many opportunities, but we also face economic uncertainty. Everything we love about our county is tied to our natural resources, jobs, the tax base, as well as infrastructure and recreation. So it's critical for leaders with experience to make the tough decisions necessary to preserve our quality of life in Sweetwater County. I understand these issues, and with your support, we'll continue to deal with them. I am a proud native of Wyoming. I've been a lifelong Republican. I have deep roots in the state and this county. I grew up helping with my family's sheep and cattle ranch, and now a farm at Farson. I'm a graduate of Green River High School, earned degrees from the University of Wyoming in business education, and Colorado State University with degrees in marketing and vocational education administration. My strength is with the federal land issues. I've had 25 years experience dealing with the cooperating agency status with all of the programs that the federal government tries to impose upon us.
Thank you, Mary. And now an opening statement. Rose, if we could hear from you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Mosbey. I'm a Republican challenger for the county commission seat. My family and I are lifelong residents of Sweetwater County. I retired after a 35-year career in the oil and gas industry as the field business supervisor for Sweetwater and Carbon County operations. My responsibilities included finance, accounting, and asset management. I've served in leadership roles on many governing and advisory volunteer boards and commissions, including healthcare, planning and zoning, economic development, and industry. In addition, I served for 5 years on the Rock Springs City Council and 18 years on the Unemployment Insurance Commission for the state of Wyoming. I've always had a passion for public service and a desire to know how agencies and organizations work together to serve the citizens who live, work, and do business in Sweetwater County. I support the extracted minerals industry's multiple use of public lands and private property rights. I have the time, background, knowledge, and experience to successfully serve Sweetwater County and the people who live here.
Thank you, Rose. And finally, an opening statement, Taylor Jones.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks to Bruce, Johnny K., Sweetwater GOP for putting this debate together. Thanks for everybody here in the room and online. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Thoman and Rose for running a good, clean campaign. I'm Taylor Jones. I'm currently a Sweetwater County Commissioner, who many of you in this room or watching online selected to fill a vacancy a year ago. Thank you very much for your trust in me. During the selection process, I was asked if I would run in this election if I were selected. The answer is yes, and so that's one of the many reasons that I'm here tonight. I've worked very hard for you over the last year, and tonight I plan to share my thoughts and hard work topics such as our budget, the Rock Springs BLM Resource Management Plan, working with our industries and citizens. And it's been a very full year of commissioner tasks, but it's been a year that I've thoroughly enjoyed, and it's resulted in positive directions for Sweetwater County. I've lived in Sweetwater County since 1994. I'm married to my wonderful wife, Stacy, who's here. Both my kids, Logan and Lauren, are here. Love them both as well. And I need to mention our dogs, Paisley and Kona, because they are home on the couch watching tonight. I'm in oil and gas, and I'm a small business owner. My wife and I also own the 307 Real Estate Group. I'm a lifetime conservative Republican. It's all I've ever known. When I moved here in 1994, being a Republican wasn't very popular, but I didn't change just so I could be popular. And I didn't want to just go with the majority, so I remained a Republican. Pretty much with me, what you see is what you get. As I mentioned, I've worked very hard for you in the past year, and I want to finish working on what we've started, so I'd appreciate your continued trust, support, and votes on August 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Let's jump right into it. And our topic, public safety. Mary, I'd like to begin with you. And the question is as follows. What are your plans for ensuring the county's public safety services, such as law enforcement, fire protection, and emergency medical services? Are they adequately funded and effectively managed?
Well, we've had some challenges, as you know, with the ambulance last few years, but I feel like that is up and running in a safe and good manner with county support. I chaired a committee with former Commissioner Roy Lloyd to look at the fire department. We decided to reorganize and farm out our fire duties to other entities in the county instead of having them compete with each other for money and equipment. I think we have a very strong fire program. 70% of the county is public land, so the Bureau of Land Management deals with most of the fires anyway. Last year we decided as a county to join the state program that would assist if there were a major fire. So the sheriff, he's done a great job. So, I mean, I don't know what I could say that would benefit, that I could enhance that program in any way. I think he's done a great job.
Very good, thank you. And let me pose the same question to Rose, and let me go through it again if I could. Rose, what are your plans for ensuring the county's public safety services, such as law enforcement, fire protection, and emergency medical services, and also making sure they're adequately funded and effectively managed?
I totally support and would prioritize emergency medical services. I know there are conversations that have gone on between the board, the Castle Rock Hospital District Board, and the county commissioners. That's a very, very critical service that we need to provide to our citizens. It's literally life and death. As far as the law enforcement and the sheriff, that's Sheriff Gross-Nichols' job, and I believe this commission has always supported his efforts. Fire, I think what I know about this, and I'm not up to speed like the others are, but I do believe there is adequate fire protection in the county, and I would think that the spending priorities for public safety should be at the very top of the commission's list.
Very good. Thank you, Rose. And Taylor, if you'd like the question again, please, love to hear from you.
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, all of the fire, the police, the sheriff are critical. I mean, we have to fund them. There's just no way around it. We're going to probably come into some situations in the future with the expansions coming our direction where we'll need to actually have more law enforcement than we have today. So that funding is going to have to be made available. I completely support Sheriff Gross-Nichols and have from day one. Talked to him, and one of the things that he mentioned that I think is really important to note is the relationship that we have with the Sheriff's Department and with the Sheriff in particular. And, you know, they trust us because we're open and transparent. And we have open lines of communication. So they trust us and they trust what we're saying. And likewise, it goes the other way. I trust the sheriff. I trust the law enforcement. They're to do the right thing. And I think as long as we have the open lines of communication and we absolutely know we're going to fund them, we're going to be in good shape.
Very good. And Mary, I'll offer you 30 seconds in rebuttal if you so choose. Okay. And just for brevity, I'll generally ask the question twice. If anyone would like it read again, please let me know. And again, the first person that the question is posed to, if you care for a rebuttal, please also let me know. And with that, let's go on to another topic, and a hot one at that, the Rock Springs Resource Management Plan. Rose, I'd like to begin with you, and the question is as follows. What is your position in the Bureau of Land Management's Rock Springs Draft Resource Management Plan? Also, what specific efforts would you make to protect Sweetwater County's interest and autonomy from what you perceive as a federal overreach in land management decisions?
This is a hot button issue for us here in Sweetwater County, and this is not the first time this has happened. I can speak better from the oil and gas standpoint. The industry has always been overregulated, in my opinion, and I would have supported, and as many would here, no change to that resource management plan. That wasn't the case, and I believe right now we're waiting on a final EIS. I believe that I heard Commissioner Thoman speak this morning, and by 10 o'clock tomorrow at the cooperators meeting, we should know what the proposal is. And I believe I also heard that Ms. Foster said that she thought we would like this. My effort would be to stay on top of this and make sure that the federal government does not tell us how to live our lives in Sweetwater County. We have lost a lot of jobs, which is quality of life. We've lost a lot of people who don't work here. If they can't work here, they have to leave. They have to find something else. So I'm not happy with the federal government right now. I'm at the same position that the county commissioners and the task force in Wyoming have taken.
Thank you, Rose. And okay, just checking for a point of order. Mary? Yes or no? A point of order. Okay, very good.
No,
Let me
I
pose
thought you
the
were
same.
calling on me. I'm sorry.
Let me pose the same question to Taylor Jones. What is your position on the Bureau of Land Management's Rock Springs Draft Resource Management Plan? What specific efforts would you make to protect Sweetwater County's interest and autonomy from what you perceive as federal overreach in land management decisions?
Only 90 seconds, huh?
Boom.
Was adamantly opposed to the alternative B that the BLM was pushing, fought against it, for the past year. I was appointed to the governor's task force to advise him on it. I went with some of our state legislators back to Washington, D.C. to meet with Director Tracy Stone Manning to give her the story of Sweetwater County, maybe in a little bit more in depth, explain to her why there are so many areas in Sweetwater County that are called the crown jewel. So if we have all of these crown jewel areas, why do we need all of these restrictions put on them? We're doing an incredibly good job of taking care of our lands. Our industries do a good job. Our oil and gas industry reclaims land. The ranchers obviously have been ranching here for decades, and you can't ranch for that many years and destroy the land. So I would continue to fight against it. We had some times meetings at my wife's office where we had people come in and we helped them so that they could learn how to send comments in that the BLM would accept, and so I would continue right down that path.
Thank you, Taylor. And finally, the question to you, Mary, regarding the Rock Springs Resource Management Plan.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Commissioner Taylor. He got the fast-speed, high-speed cooperator course when he joined the commission and was assigned to that task force. The federal lands and what is happening on them has been the main purpose why I have been in politics for 25 years in Sweetwater County. 21 on the Conservation District, where we organized and formed a coalition of local governments with 6 other county commissions and conservation districts for the very purpose of being able on a monthly basis to address all of these concerns of whatever is happening on our federal lands and public lands in Sweetwater County. We have a legal team, we have a technical team, and we provide the local input to this team to provide the legally defensible, scientifically credible comments for the administrative record. So we have placed the federal agencies on notice for 25 years. I sat on the Rock Springs Resource Management Plan Cooperator meetings for 12 years. August 23rd of last year was a huge shock for me to see that they would come out with Alternative B after we had approved an Alternative D, which was kind of a combination plan of alternative. So, yes. Exciting times. We'll find out tomorrow.
Amen. Thank you, Mary. And Rose, I'll give you 30 seconds and a rebuttal if you'd like. All right, very good then. Let's move right along. The next topic being budget priorities. Taylor, I'd like to begin with you. The question is as follows. What are your top priorities when it comes to budget allocation and fiscal responsibility for our county? Also, how do you plan to balance the needs of essential services, infrastructure improvements, and community development while maintaining financial sustainability and accountability to taxpayers?
Well, I think we did that this year in our budget. It was a long process. It was not easy, but I think we did a great job with our budget this year. It was a very conservative budget. Our revenues were down, so we had to make some cuts, but we still funded our Coral County, which has got to be the top priority. We have our component units that we need to take care of. We have some MOUs out there that we have agreements on, so we have no choice on some of those things. And then there's the outside agencies that we can fund as we have the funds. This year we did make some quite a few cuts, but it was the right thing to do because we gave a true balanced budget. We didn't balance the budget based on pulling monies from the reserves. So we have not negatively impacted our reserves, and we had money in there that's actually already earmarked for some things. So it wouldn't have been wise to dip in to the reserves knowing that we had monies coming out already. So that's why we went the direction we did, and I firmly support the budget and what we ended up with.
Very good. And let me pose that same question to Mary. Again, what are your top priorities when it comes to budget allocation and fiscal responsibility for the county? Also, how do you plan to balance the needs of essential services along with infrastructure improvements and community development, all while maintaining financial sustainability and accountability to taxpayers?
Well, first of all, I want to applaud my fellow commissioners. We worked hard to have a balanced budget, first time in several years to do that. We have a great team. We work together great. We're dedicated, and we're not afraid to face the hard challenges. The first priority, of course, is our core government. We have almost 220 employees, and they are our greatest asset. They do a great job for the county, and we have not had to make employee cuts because we have been able to support that. We support our component units, and during the good times, we had 22 entities, actually more than that, who have gotten used to getting supplemental funding from us. So we did have to make some cuts there, but we were still able to support a lot of those entities as well this year, in spite of the cuts. Our capital projects did take a hit, and hopefully we'll just have to see how the money comes in. Maybe we'll be able to address more of those so they don't have to remain on hold.
Very good. Thank you. And Rose, final question to you, or to you finally, I should say, regarding budget priorities.
Sure, budget priorities. When I was serving on the city council, we always had a little thing that we whispered to ourselves, the need to have and the nice to have. And so in times when revenues are down, you look at the need to have, which is core government. I totally agree that is, something that should be essential and prioritized. Payroll, without the employees, government wouldn't run. They are the people who make things happen. As in my personal budget, you take care of the basics first. Your rent, your utilities, not the county owns those buildings, but you take care of your assets too. You don't want to put maintenance items on hold because they will cost you twice as much when you finally get around to them. So when the money is good, it's easy. Everybody gets a slice of the pie. No one will ever get the whole pie. But if things were to go downhill for revenues, we really need to look at the need to haves before the nice to haves.
Very good. And Taylor, 30 seconds in a rebuttal if you'd like.
Thank you. Yeah, just to put a little finer point on our employees and what we did for the employees this time around, we did give a raise, which we were all very much in support of, so we did give a COLA raise. We did also cover the increase in the health insurance costs. So even though revenues were down, we worked our budget and covered those additions. And so we definitely took care of our employees this time around. We're all very proud of that.
Very good. Thank you. And Mary, I'd like to offer you 30 seconds in rebuttal as well.
We do have money in reserves, but that is there for a purpose, to save for a rainy day. So we're committed to maintaining that safety net until we can get more money coming into the county.
All right, very good. And Mary, if I could ask you to just move that microphone a little closer to you, particularly since you'll be getting the first question of our next topic. Fair enough? All right, let's move right along, the topic being county efficiency and effectiveness. Mary, again to you. How do you propose to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of county operations? Also, are there specific departments or services you believe need reform or reorganization?
The county is lean and mean. I would say everyone works hard, and you don't see people sitting around playing games on their phones or anything like that. The county departments have made over 100 attrition cuts over the last 10, 15 years. So we do not have a surplus of employees. I would say I have not observed in any department where I feel like they have an oversupply of employees. I feel that everyone is busy and everyone is working hard, and in a couple of instances we've had to add a few employees just because we want to be able to serve the public in the most efficient manner we can. So that would be my comment on that is I think they're doing a great job for our county.
All right, very good. Let me pose the question again, Rose. How do you propose to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of county operations? Also, are there specific departments or services you believe need reform or reorganization?
Not being on the inside, I don't know if there are departments or areas that need improvement. That would be something that I would have to observe. However, county efficiency and effectiveness, I'm not a micromanager. I think that needs to be monitored by other elected officials for their departments and the department heads with communication back to the county commission as to maybe suggested improvements, or maybe they've already done something that, do more with less. That was always something where I worked that we had to look at every day. But I would not micromanage that. I would allow that the supervisors, the department heads, to do that, but communicate back to the commissioners so that we know that there is an effort being made as far as efficiency.
Very good. Thank you, Rose. And Taylor, finally, the topic being county efficiency and effectiveness.
I would agree with Commissioner Thoman. I think things are going very well. I mentioned in my opening statements that the county's going in a positive direction. So I firmly believe that. I mean, we've made some changes to planning and zoning, but we let the planning and zoning department come to us. We aren't telling them what to do. I think it goes back to what I mentioned about with the sheriff and open communications. We have great open communications with all of our departments, and they feel like they can trust us, they can come talk to us, and that's probably the most efficient way you can have government is if there's just openness and trust and transparency. Those are the key to it. So we've made some, Treasurer Cowan made some changes with license plate renewal, which truthfully saves folks in Rock Springs a whole lot of time and money and gas and whatnot. They don't have to go over to the Green River to the courthouse to get their license plates. I think that was a great change. I also think, though, that we've kind of ramped up the liaison system so that we do a much better job, I believe, of reporting back to each other in our meetings, of the meetings we've attended, and sharing with the other commissioners. So we're all pretty well up to speed. We might not have every detail on every item, but we're all pretty up to speed on what's going on.
Very good. Thank you, Taylor. Mary, anything in rebuttal? All right, very good. Rose? Very good. All right, let's move right along, covering a lot of ground, and I know that's what people care about. Next topic, and Rose, I'd like to begin with you if we could, please. And the topic, county priorities. The question is as follows. What will be your top priorities for the county? And could you outline the key areas or initiatives that you plan to focus on during your term and explain why you believe these priorities are crucial for our community's growth and well-being?
Of course, priorities for me are basic services to the people who live in Sweetwater County, and that relates back to budgeting. And as far, I don't have the detailed information on this. I know what I think I'm trying to say here, but basic services. And so if there's funding, you want to make sure those are covered first for basic services, for county priorities. I don't have a specific project that I can talk about tonight. I'm not on the inside. The incumbents actually have so much more information. They have the advantage here, and I think they're doing a good job. I just don't have any specifics for county priorities. Spend money wisely, do more with less. That's all I've got.
Very good, ma'am. Thank you. Let me pose the question once again to Taylor regarding county priorities. What will be your top priorities for the county? And also, could you outline the key areas or initiatives that you plan to focus on during your term, also explaining why you believe these priorities are crucial for our community's growth and well-being?
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but obviously the budget is always going to be a top priority. Everything falls underneath the budget, so that's always a top priority. But I think we have some challenges in front of us, and it's been mentioned in some of the other debates, but housing is going to be an issue with the Trona expansions. And while I don't believe in government housing, I do believe that the county needs to do its part to make housing possible. We need to be a county of yes. So we need to do everything we can to work with contractors, with builders, with people who have some land they want to subdivide. We mentioned some changes in planning and zoning. So I think we're on the right track. But housing is going to be a critical issue, and we have got to be a part of it. I'm in a couple of working groups. I think Representative Larson mentioned it last night, that is looking at bringing industry together to find out what the true needs are. And again, it's going to go back to what I'm going to say, I think the third time, is open lines of communication. And I think industry leaders feel comfortable coming and talking to us. And that's the only way we can truthfully move forward.
Very good, thank you. And again, the topic, county priorities. Mary, your thoughts?
Well, of course, supporting basic services, core government is important, but the federal government could turn this county upside down. We'll find out tomorrow. So a lot of my time and focus has been on being a federal watchdog, our natural resources determine our tax base, our way of life, our custom and culture, our recreation, our access. Everything is tied to what happens on those lands. And we're going to have to keep a strong presence, be ready to protest the resource management plan if necessary, and we are positioned to do that. And we're working with the governor's office also if we have to go in a lawsuit. But this commission has been faced with so many issues. We have wind energy. He's going to be the cooperator on wind and industrial siding. Island was taking the lead on that. We've had a lot of new issues to deal with. We are coming into a prosperous time. We're just not quite there with the Trona mines. So we are dealing with the Trona mines, the right-of-ways for them, and all of the new kinds of energy, CO2 sequestration. So we have a lot of additional demands on our time to be up to speed on. So that's
very good. Thank you. And Rose, anything from yourself in a rebuttal? Very good. Well, let's move right along. Next topic of questions. Taylor, I'd like to begin with you, covering capital infrastructure and investment. The question: how would you address the county's long-term capital needs while managing current fiscal constraints? Also, how would you prioritize spending on infrastructure projects such as roads, bridges, and public buildings?
Well, it's a delicate balance. We keep talking about the budget, but we spend a considerable amount of time and energy on the budget. But our capital request totaled in the neighborhood of $12 million. Obviously, we didn't have that money. So there's a long list of items from buildings, roads.
Well, try this one.
Thank you, Bruce. As I've said, you have the toughest job up here.
Okay. Our priority one capital requests were about $2.8 million. So when you consider that we cut more than that in our budget, it is a very delicate balance. But it's something that we feel that we made the right choice making the cuts that we did. And because, as Commissioner Thoman mentioned, we do feel like there are better times coming. So we do see these projects being completed. One of the projects that's been contested, been heated for a lot of years, is County Road 1. There's a substantial amount of that road right now. So I think we're doing a very good job of answering your question just by what we're doing with our budget and prioritizing.
All right, very good. Thank you, Taylor. And let me pose the same question to Mary. regarding capital infrastructure and investment. How would you address the county's long-term capital needs while managing current fiscal constraints? How would you prioritize spending on infrastructure projects such as roads, bridges, and public buildings?
Well, the former commissioners, not sure how far back, maybe former Commissioner Lloyd can weigh in on this, but they formed a capital committee which consisted of all your department heads and core government to identify their capital needs so that they could jointly decide what the priorities should be. So maybe they need new IT equipment this year, then maybe someone else has to wait. So that the job has been done for us. We just have to allocate the money as we get it. The capital committee meets and helps us make that decision as to what are the most important capital needs for the county.
Very good, thank you. And finally, Rose, your thoughts on capital infrastructure and investment.
Oh, capital, that's where the big money is. Capital investments, infrastructure, although necessary, I would be hesitant to make a commitment to long-term capital needs because we don't know what the funding is going to be like. But short-term, totally supportive. We have to grow, and if we have the needs. I also think that if we want to do this, we need to really think about, again, the needs versus the wants, and if they're totally necessary. Going forward, like I said, I would not commit to any long-term capital projects. However, you have to take care of what you have, and I'm not sure, probably this would fall under maintenance, but that needs to, those facilities that are capital projects that are already built need to be taken care of. And that's, again, about money. So it's a budgeting process. If we had a lot of money, we would honor every project. We would say yes to everything. But it's about where's the money and where is the need.
Very good. And Taylor, I'll give you 30 seconds in rebuttal if you'd like.
Thank you. Well, capital infrastructure investment is long-term. That's exactly what it is. So there are a lot of things that we need to do, and we need to plan for the long term. We're going to have, we are confident that we're going to have this Trona expansion happen. So that's going to jump up in front of us in the next couple of years, but it really is, those things are going to last a lot longer. So we have got to have our equipment in place, our people in place, our roads, our buildings, everything ready to survive later.
Very good. And oddly, this is our final topic. We're moving along swiftly. I think everyone appreciates the ground we're covering this evening. Let me begin the topic, intergovernmental relations, and let me pose the question first to Mary. How do you plan to work with the legislature and other state government officials to prioritize and address the needs of Sweetwater County? What strategies would you use to ensure that the county's interests are effectively represented and supported at the state level?
Well, through our state association, we're heavily involved in the legislative process, and we take weekly votes and submit them to the legislature as to what our priorities are for county commissioners as a whole in the state. But we also meet individually and invite our legislators to come to the commission meetings to meet with us. And so I think we're doing a lot better job of reaching out and communicating our specific needs for this county.
Very good. And again, the final topic, intergovernmental relations. Rose, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this question. How do you plan to work with the legislature and other state government officials to prioritize and address the needs of Sweetwater County? What strategies would you use to ensure that the county's interests are effectively represented and supported at the state level?
I would encourage, of course, open communication and dialogue with the legislators. I think that's the only way that we can all work together to accomplish what we need to for the county and for the state. Communication, I guess how I would do that would be with the open communication, but also to lobby the legislators when they're in session to make sure that they are, and I know that they are, indeed looking out for the best interests of the people that they represent here in Sweetwater County.
Very good, thank you. And regarding intergovernmental relations, Taylor, your thoughts?
I think we do a great job of working with our legislators. We do work through the Wyoming County Commission Association for lobbying and for information and to keep us up to speed on what's going on, especially during session, because that's a pretty rapid fire time of the year for the legislators. So it's great to have an organization that will help keep us informed. But hats off to all of our current legislators, because they are open to hearing from us. They are open to talking to us. They reach out to us. We have great relationship with them. I can't even tell you how many times that I've picked up the phone, they instantly answer, or if not, they call back really quickly. So I think we have a great relationship with our legislators, and I think it's critical because while they're in Cheyenne, they understand what's going on in front of them with the bills, but they don't always necessarily understand exactly how everything applies to us. So they have the need to contact us and ask us to make sure that their votes really are Sweetwater County, what they do.
Okay. Mary, we began with you. Would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Mr. Jones, you have sort of an inside track,
Very good. All right. Not just because of the brevity, whether planned or unplanned. Let's sneak in one more question. Would that be all right? Great. And I believe, I'm sorry, let me make sure I'm staying in order. Rose, I believe we're going to start with you, the final series of questions. And I apologize, I've got to go to my phone to pull this up. Topic regarding qualified immunity. Rose, if you would, answer the following. Qualified immunity has been a topic of significant debate, particularly concerning its impact on accountability and public trust in law enforcement. What is your stance on qualified immunity, and how do you propose balancing the need for police accountability with protecting officers from frivolous lawsuits?
I do support the law enforcement. However, we are all human beings and we are all different. And qualified immunity, I really don't support a blanket qualified immunity for any group. I think that each situation should be assessed on its own merits.
Very good. Taylor, the same question to you. Again, qualified immunity has been a topic of significant debate, particularly concerning its impact on accountability and public trust in law enforcement. What is your stance on qualified immunity, and how do you propose balancing the need for police accountability with protecting officers from frivolous lawsuits?
Will they support qualified? Oh, okay. So I absolutely support qualified. Several of our law enforcement, and they're a firm believer in it. It does affect them, and because I don't know why you'd ever be in law enforcement. So I support our law enforcement, and I support qualified immunity. One of the keys to qualified immunity is that the court system really takes care of anybody that gets out of line and steps beyond the bounds of what's legal. So the balance is already there, but without qualified immunity, we don't have law enforcement.
Very good, thank you. And again, talking about qualified immunity, let me finish with Mary Thoman.
Senator Jones, I'm sure he thinks that I'm rigging his microphone, but I didn't touch it. Anyway, we do have a great group and a great team as commissioners, and we do enjoy being with each other and working together and helping each other. And so I think that makes us a strong leadership team for the county. Qualified immunity, honestly, I hadn't heard that word very much until these debates, but I do support the blue, and I think it is a case-by-case basis, but I don't think that we should be allowing frivolous lawsuits. So I guess I would say I would support that.
All right, very good. And Rose? Very good. Well, that's going to bring to a close our questions and answers for this portion of our debate. We're going to wrap things up, as you might imagine, with closing statements. And Mary Thoman, if we could begin with you.
Well, I am seeking re-election for Sweetwater County Commissioner. We have a great team, and I would like to continue to work for you as a constituency in our county to ensure prosperity for Sweetwater County. I have over 25 years experience in county government, started out with the Conservation District. I was chairman of that for 17 years. I was on that for 21 years. And during that time, my major role was to get involved in what was happening on our public lands. I believe in multiple use, and I will fight to maintain that multiple use. And I believe in fighting against the federal overreach. I believe in expanding economic development opportunities, developing our mineral resources. I'm a liaison to our county airport. I work to improve our ambulance service. I co-chaired a committee to reorganize fire department in the county, saving over $750,000 for the taxpayers. I advocate for our veterans and senior citizens, and I believe in protecting our individual freedoms and preserving local control. I'm a Wyoming native, a lifelong Republican. You can contact me at Thoman for Commissioner on Facebook or Messenger. I am committed to continue all these efforts on your behalf. I am prepared and willing to face our ongoing challenges. I promise to you I will devote all the time it takes to do the best job I can for you. I ask for your vote on August 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And Rose Mosbey, closing thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you to the Sweetwater County Republican Party, Bruce Pibick, Wildflower News, and you, Johnny K., for your efforts. This was a big deal both nights. Appreciate your efforts. I would like to take this opportunity, to serve the people of Sweetwater County. I do not have a personal agenda, and I don't represent special interest groups. I will listen with respect to all views, promote policies which wisely invest tax dollars, and generally serve in the best interest of the people who live in Sweetwater County. My focus will be on the needs, interests, and future prosperity. Today, I'm not a politician. I'm a candidate, and I'm a constituent. I don't know everything, as you could tell, but I do have the ability to think and to learn. I'm asking for your vote on August 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. And closing thoughts, Taylor Jones.
Once again, thanks to everyone here who's either watched or shown up in person to pay attention to the debates and see what's in front of you. And thanks to you folks who did put the debate together. We've covered some pretty important topics tonight that I think can touch each and every one of us. I hope you've learned a little bit about each of us, tell the differences. I've sat on a variety of boards and commissions locally, statewide, nationally, and one international. And anybody can serve on a board. It only takes filling out an application and attending a few meetings. But what's important is to find out who's been successful. The boards I've served on have been important and required significant time and effort. The boards I've served on have been successful, and I've typically served as an officer and usually been asked to be a board chair or a president. Successful leadership is the quality you should be looking for in a county commissioner, and I've proven over the years that I am that person. Whether it's been starting out at Sweetwater County or Sweetwater Snowpoke Snowmobile and ATV Club as the president, then on to the president of the Wyoming State Snowmobile Association, worked with the American Council Snowmobile Association and the International Snowmobile Council, or when I signed up to be on the board of our Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County, at a time of great difficulty where I was instrumental in helping the organization climb to levels never experienced in the past, all while I was an officer and also was asked to be president. They're just a couple examples of my success, but the reason I was successful has been my ability to work with people for the common good. I haven't always agreed with everyone, and they haven't always agreed with me. But what must remain constant is to not be disagreeable and continue to move the ball forward. What I bring to the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners and I humbly ask for your support on August 20th, the same as when you supported me a year ago in the GOP selection process. Thank you.
Taylor Jones, Mary Thoman, Rose Mosbey, ladies and gentlemen, these are your candidates for the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners. Thank you all. And that'll conclude not only this evening's debates, but also the debates for this season. My greatest thanks to Bruce Pivick. You are certainly grace under fire, my friend. We appreciate everything you do. Roy Lloyd to my right, and Tammy Valdez as well. And ladies and gentlemen, most of all, thank you, Elizabeth Bingham. Marvelous job once again. Thank you for joining us online, Facebook, YO4 News, and joining us here in person at the Broadway Theater. Until next time, I'm Johnny Kay.